Okay, so my name's Julia Pasciuto. I use she and her pronouns. I am a co-lead on the Office of Planning and Community Development at Equitable Transit Oriented Development project, specifically this community advisory group for which we're hiring a facilitator. We have a couple other folks on this call. Jenna, who introduced herself, Alberta, who is taking notes, Rowan, who's here as well, and our intern, Margot. And yes, I think I see everybody putting their name in the chat. If you're looking for partners, I know we have a few other RFPs open right now, and you're welcome to apply to any of them, but if you want to be, in partnership with others, please let the folks know in the chat about what kind of partnerships you're looking for. Our agenda today is to go over the project purpose and background, go through the consultant role, scope, and submittal questions, and answer any questions you might have about our project. So our context and opportunity originates in a grant that the city received in 2020 to address equitable development along the West Seattle and Ballard Lake extension by centering community leadership and addressing station access, remnant parcels, and equitable development outcomes. This is an FTA grant, the ETOD planning grant. While this work is focused along the West Seattle and Ballard Link extensions, we're hoping to develop a framework that applies citywide. The outcome of this work will be an equitable transit-oriented development implementation plan with implications for station area planning and community investments. Another critical outcome is the process itself. The process laid out in the RFP was co-developed with a group of core community stakeholders. And there are three core participant groups: the community advisory group, who will comprise the main decision-making and question-asking body through an iterative and facilitated process. We'll have technical advisors. It's, as we move through the implementation of this work, it's less of a technical advisory group, but more of a technical support and city staff component. And then we also have place-based strategies, because we know that as we're developing an overarching citywide approach, that there's unique place-based circumstances in particularly the neighborhoods that are experiencing displacement pressures as the Chinatown International District and Delridge. Our process will begin basically as soon as the consultant is selected. We've recruited already the community advisory group members, had a process in the fall to recruit them. And we'll kick off with a healing and trust building series of meetings to onboard and level set with the participants, make sure everybody is starting with the same information so that we can move forward together. This core work program section will refine the existing draft values, vision, and definition of equitable TOD, which is linked in the RFP itself, and identify the strategy elements and tactics that will further prioritize the work. So that's kind of the core work program. We're identifying the strategies and tools that we want to use so that we can actually develop the implementation plan to further explore those strategies and tactics and actually finalize the plan. The consultant role is to help us develop a structure for how the advisory group will function and facilitate a process in which the community advisory group will lead the development of an equitable transit-oriented development strategy and implementation plan with support from those technical advisors from the city and other technical staff from practitioners, I'll say. The project scope begins kind of with this alignment process between the city and the consultant to make sure we're on the same page about what the goals and process will be. And then the second phase is really focused on the facilitation of the advisory group. Our goal is to have somebody on, a consultant on in late April, early May, so that we can really get that alignment phase. Because what am I trying to say? We hope to be able to move quickly and hit the ground running to get actually into the core body of work. But we want to make sure that we're on the same page. So we'll start with alignment exercises with a consultant to get more clarity on the near-term scope and deliverables. But the foundational work of the facilitator will be to facilitate the CAG. So to dig a little bit more into what we're hoping for the community advisory group process is that we'll start with this onboarding module, which we're calling the Healing and Trust Building retreat, but it's really a series of workshops in which the intended outcomes is for the CAG members to build relationships with each other, starting off with a shared understanding of how institutional racism is experienced and exists within the context of transit-oriented development. As we refine the foundational work in the next module, that will include digging more into the historical context and why equitable transit-oriented development is important, learning around how equitable transit-oriented development has been done here and in other places, and what opportunities there are in Seattle's context and the context of the West Seattle and Ballard Link extensions, confirming the vision and the values and the definition. And then as we dig into establishing the strategy, the support that we need for the facilitator is to help the CAG identify the strategies and a high-level rough identification of tactics that we'll work through and develop. The work groups, we will establish work groups around those strategies and tactics. And this is an iterative process, and so we may need to pivot and change direction depending on where the CAG is or how we're moving through and making decisions. And then, in this the implementation section is where we're, the staff are taking the work that the CAG has done and really putting it into an implementation plan. And I think important to note that the facilitator will not be developing all of the curriculum or the materials for the sessions. Ideally, we'd like to, we want to make sure that we're in alignment with the goals of the facilitator, but we don't have expectations that the facilitator is an expert in equitable transit-oriented development. That's really the role of the staff and the advisory group members. So this is our timeline. It is, an expedited timeline, I would say. We have the pre-submittal meeting today. The deadline for questions is tomorrow. And we hope to have the addendum posted a few days after that. We'll be conducting interviews, hopefully the week of March 25th, and announce a successful proposer by April 1st. We'll be negotiating with the successful proposer and hope to have a contract executed at the beginning of May. One thing to note, we do not have any, we have waived the minimum qualifications, or we don't have any minimum qualifications for this RFP, but we do want to note some relevant project experience that we kind of call out in the proposal response. So it'd be helpful if you have experience building community relationships and practicing relational culture, facilitating the development of equitable planning and policy outcomes with diverse stakeholders, and have experience conducting leadership development, community building, and facilitating community-centered process. So yeah, these are not required minimum qualifications, but we just wanted to name that these are the things that we're looking for your response around. Sorry, my computer's a little slow. The proposal response questions, we want to understand how you have used different decision-making models in your facilitation. So not just consensus building or kind of democratic decision-making, but other alternative decision-making strategies and tools. We want to understand how you would facilitate the teaching and learning of technical planning and policy topics to people who may not have that language, technical language or background, and also vice versa, supporting people with technical backgrounds to understand how lived experience of BIPOC folks can shape the technical planning and policy. So being able to bridge those two. And then how you're centering racial equity and lived experience in the process. This is the breakdown of the scoring in the RFP. We do have cost proposal will be scored, and if we do not have a DBE or WIMBY goal as part of this, just wanting to call that out. Because you may have seen previous iterations of this RFP where that was a requirement. And yes, we're hoping to publish the addendum late this week or early next week before the submittal period ends. So that is the end of our portion, but we would love to hear any questions that you might have. We will be including the response to your questions. We'll be giving responses to your questions here, but also reflecting those response to questions in the addendum. Jenna?
Thanks, Julia. Just open it up for folks to raise their hand, ask any questions that have come up during the presentation or that you had before joining today. Brian.
I do have one question. Just how closely will the city be working with this facilitation specifically and Sound Transit? Or will that be included at all?
That's a great question, Brian. And I think, Alberta, if you want to chime in after me, feel free to. This process is distinct from the Sound Transit planning process. It's much more focused on the neighborhood development around the stations and not necessarily the alignment decisions. And so there may be Sound Transit staff who are coming in and out of the process as technical support, but more as it relates to, Sound Transit's involvement in the development around their station and not necessarily the actual infrastructure itself. Jenna or Alberta, if you have other, or Rowan, if you have other. Go for it, Jenna.
I was just going to share that because it's or maybe I'll ask Julia to elaborate, because it's a planning grant versus an architectural engineering grant, it is much more of the planning level, neighborhood community planning level lens.
Yeah, and we've linked in the RFP the summary document from the initial body of work. You can see it's kind of focused on holistic community benefits. Access is definitely one of them. We want to make sure that the residents and stakeholders in the neighborhoods where there's our transit investments can actually use the transit. But that I think we'll address that as needed by bringing in the relevant project staff, either from SDOT or from Sound Transit. So I would say it would be low coordination. There's not an expectation that you'd be coordinating with Sound Transit, and we are coordinating with Sound Transit, but not explicitly in the DEIS process that is underway right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just go ahead. Kat.
Hi, I'm just wondering, the kind of RFP says like kind of through 2025. Do you have like a timeline? And I'm sorry, I joined a little bit late. Do you have a timeline of, I know when you want to start, but do you know when the work actually goes through?
I mean, our goal, our grant ends in December 2025. For now, I know it's been flexible as the Sound Transit timeline has also been delayed. But our goal is to have this be an 18-month process maximum, with the main facilitation happening at the front end of that. The last 6 months we're reserving for actually developing the plan, document, or whatever it ends up being, whether it's an online resource or more of a designed document. And that it'll be a lighter facilitation touch, but we want to make sure that we're kind of practicing our values of accountability with the CAG, and we hope that the facilitator would be able to support that.
Thanks. Anyone else? Just want to note that early question came in relationship to indirect cost rates and federal acquisition regulations that we are working with our contracting and procurement department to address, and will issue a response in the addendum. But we do believe that, generally speaking, the federal requirements apply under our master service agreement, but we're verifying that, and we'll update everyone both through that addendum, and since it's a small group here today, we'll also make sure we let you know that the addendum has been published.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. One last call for questions, comments. Please feel free. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just, as we've been hiring the facilitator, we're also been like going through this recruitment and the recruitment process for the advisory group. So maybe I could speak briefly with some additional information. We have 20. We received 50 applications, so it was a competitive process. We evaluated based on the criteria, and I think all of it is up on our website still. We could maybe put that in the chat. We have 20 members who've been selected representing neighborhoods experiencing high displacement pressures across the city, so all the way up in Lake City, all the way down to Rainier Beach, and all of the neighborhoods in between, and lots of different kind of, I'd say, professional backgrounds. We have kind of community organization representatives. We have healthcare workers, frontline social service workers, and also a handful of people who kind of work in the community real estate development. That's their sphere of work. And then also a range, we were very explicit about recruiting people where this is like brand new, they've never participated in a city process like this before, to people who, have more experience working with institutions like the city, which is part of why we're looking for a consultant who can support with that kind of leadership development and professional development components. We reserved budget from OPCD to resource the advisory group members, so that does not need to come out of the budget proposal that you all may submit. I think that's probably it, the other information about the advisory group.
I just want to note to everyone that I did provide the link to the Equitable TOD portion of our website for reference in the chat. Okay, last call for questions.
Yes, is the intent to set up the CAG as a nonprofit for a continued process or continued purpose?
It's effectively a version of what we do with our normal boards and commissions, but it's a sounding board, which is specific to a particular project. So each member of the advisory group has been recruited through an open process and serves as their own independent community advisor to the office for this project exclusively.
And I'm assuming that's voluntary. Is that correct?
They are compensated for their time.
I see. Thank you.
Yes, and that compensation is paid by the office, not necessary to include in any cost proposals for this project. Okay, just be advised that the comment and question period is still open. So if you have anything, please share it with me in advance of the closing date and the solicitation, and we will make sure to issue that response and update everyone via email when it's posted. And we want to say thank you for your interest in the project and for attending today. And we really look forward to seeing proposals and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon, all.